Ravenclaw has faced its share of nightmares. We've cataloged monsters born from forgotten rituals, contained mutations that defy biology, and shut down illegal human experiments that twisted flesh and bone into weapons. But nothing in our extensive archives, nothing in our decades of confronting the unnatural, could have prepared us for entity designation. Redveinoracle. The story begins not with a bang, but with a series of whispers that turned into screams. Near the desolate Eronwald Ridge, a cluster of unexplained deaths began to surface. Local authorities were baffled, calling it the work of a phantom predator, maybe an unusually large bear or a pack of wolves. But the details didn't add up. The victims all shared identical, horrifying injuries. Each had a crushed throat and a shattered spine. The precision was chilling. There were absolutely zero defensive wounds. No signs of a struggle, no hesitation, no mistakes. Whoever or whatever killed them did so with surgical, brutal efficiency. It was as if they were simply switched off. Ravenclaw's initial assessment was that we were dealing with a highly skilled, perhaps enhanced, assassin. So we did what we always do. We deployed a strike team, 16 of our best operators, the elite of the elite, armed with state-of-the-art equipment and trained for any conceivable threat. They went into the woods of Eronwald Ridge expecting to hunt a monster. Instead, the monster hunted them. Only 3 came back. They weren't just physically broken, they were mentally shattered. Their debriefing tapes are still classified at the highest level, but the transcriptions all highlight the same impossible, terrifying detail. Each of the survivors said the same thing. They heard it before they saw it. A voice, clear as day, echoing through the trees. It spoke their names, not just their coding names, but their given names. Names they hadn't used in years. It was a psychological attack of unparalleled precision. It knew who they were. This single piece of information changed everything. The mission's classification was immediately escalated from hazard to absolute. For those unfamiliar with our protocols, hazard means we neutralize the threat. Absolute means termination is considered impossible. Capture becomes mandatory at any cost. We weren't just dealing with a creature. We were dealing with an intelligence that operated on a level we couldn't comprehend. The second operation was not a hunt. It was a small-scale war. We threw everything we had at Eronwald Ridge. Drones blanketed the sky, providing real-time thermal and spectral imaging. We deployed concussion traps, designed to incapacitate a target without killing it. Our operatives carried neural disruptors, experimental tech designed to overload a creature's sensory system. And at the center of it all was a mobile containment unit, a titanium cage reinforced with electromagnetic fields, designed to hold anything short of a minor deity. We expected a vicious, desperate fight. We prepared for heavy casualties. What we got was the exact opposite. As the team closed in on the Oracle's location, they found Italiano standing in a small clearing, perfectly calm. It wasn't hiding. It wasn't preparing to attack. It made no move to flee. It simply stood there, hands held loosely at its sides, and watched our heavily armed soldiers surround it. There was no resistance, no struggle. It allowed itself to be captured. The team reported a profound sense of unease. They said its gaze was unsettling, that it looked at them like it already knew which ones were going to die of heart attacks in 20 years. Which ones would be in car accidents, which ones would pass peacefully in their sleep. It wasn't looking at them. It was looking at their entire lives, from beginning to end. Once secured, the redveinoracle was transported to Containment Wing 9, our most secure facility for sentient, high-intelligence entities. And that's where the real mystery began. The Oracle never once attempted to escape. It never tested the boundaries of its cell. It simply sat on the reinforced cot, maintaining a perfect, ramrod-straight posture, almost as if it were performing some silent, unending ritual. It didn't eat. It didn't sleep. Analysis of its vitals showed a metabolic rate so low it should have been impossible for a living organism. The most disturbing observation was its eyes. They barely blinked. They just watched. They watched the cameras. They watched the one-way observation glass. They watched the scientists who came to study it. Every single person who worked on the project. From the hardened security guards to the world-renowned xenobiologists, came to the same conclusion. The creature wasn't being restrained, it was waiting. It was waiting for something specific, something that was already on its calendar, something it had already predicted would happen. The atmosphere in Wing 9 became thick with a quiet dread. We weren't the observers. We were the ones being observed. On the 7th night of its containment, at precisely 3:33 a.m. Something happened. All cameras, microphones, and biometric sensors inside the Oracle's cell went completely black for exactly 4 seconds. Not a flicker before, not a glitch after, just for seconds of absolute nothing. There was no facility-wide power failure. No alarms were triggered. The blackout was isolated entirely to that single room. When the feeds came back online, the containment cell was just as it was. The walls were intact, the door was sealed. But the Oracle was no longer on the cot. It was now standing in the far corner of the cell, its back to the wall, perfectly still. Its head was tilted slightly to the side, as if listening to a conversation no one else could hear. And for the first time since its capture, for the first time in any of our recordings, it was smiling. A faint, subtle, knowing smile. Panic swept through the command center. Breach protocols were initiated. Guards stormed the corridor outside the cell, ready for a fight. But there was nothing. The cell was still secure. No guards were harmed. Outwardly, nothing had changed at all. The Oracle simply went from one spot in the room to another in 4 seconds of darkness. But inwardly, for everyone involved, everything had changed. Every researcher, every analyst, every guard who reviewed the 4-second blackout and the footage of the smiling Oracle described the exact same physical sensation. A crushing pressure in their chest. A feeling of being completely exposed, as if they were being observed by something that knew not just their name, but their deepest fears, their most secret thoughts, their entire past and future. It was an intellectual and existential violation. The lead scientist on the project, a man named Dr. Ari Storn, became obsessed with those 4 seconds. He spent weeks rewatching the footage, running simulations, trying to find a rational explanation. His logs became more and more erratic. His final official entry, scrawled in a shaky hand just before he was placed on indefinite medical leave, contains a sentence that still haunts the halls of Ravenclaw. The last line he ever wrote about the Oracle was this: "Yes, not waiting for an escape. He's waiting for us to catch up to the moment he already sees." The official file on entity designation. Redveinoracle concludes that it remains safely contained in Wing 9. The smiling has stopped. It has returned to its silent, watchful state. But those of us who have read the full, uncensored report know the truth is far more terrifying. We didn't capture it. It is exactly where it wants to be. We are not its jailers. We are simply part of its plan. The Redveinoracle remains contained, or so the files claim. Thank you for watching. If you find these hidden histories as fascinating as we do, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more Ravenclaw files. Stay curious and stay safe.